The story of Shem, Ham, and Japheth is a biblical narrative that is often interpreted as an explanation for the origin of different human races and nations. This narrative can be found in the book of Genesis in the Old Testament of the Bible, specifically in Genesis 9:18-27. It is important to note that this narrative is religious in nature and should be understood as a mythological account rather than a scientific or historical explanation of human origins. According to the biblical account, Shem, Ham, and Japheth were the three sons of Noah who survived the great flood along with their father and their respective wives. After the floodwaters receded, Noah became a farmer and planted a vineyard. One day, he became drunk from the wine he had produced and was found naked in his tent. When Ham, one of his sons, saw his father's nakedness, he went and told his brothers Shem and Japheth. In response, Shem and Japheth took a garment and, walking backward to avoid looking at their father's nakedness, covered him. When Noah awoke from his drunkenness and learned what had happened, he pronounced blessings and curses upon his three sons. The specific verses in Genesis 9:18-27 are as follows. 18 The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. 19 These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was populated. 20 Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard. 21 When he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside his tent. 22 Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his two brothers outside. 23 But Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. Then they walked in backward and covered their father's naked body. Their faces were turned the other way so that they would not see their father naked. 24 When Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him. 25 He said, "Cursed be Canaan. The lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers." 26 He also said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem." 27 May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth. It is important to recognize that this biblical narrative has been interpreted in various ways throughout history. Some have used it to justify racial hierarchies and slavery, particularly by associating Ham with African peoples and using this interpretation to argue for the enslavement of African descendant populations. However, such interpretations are highly controversial and have been widely rejected in modern times as morally and ethically indefensible. Most scholars and religious leaders today emphasize the importance of interpreting this biblical story in its historical and cultural context while rejecting any discriminatory or harmful interpretations. It is crucial to recognize the diversity and complexity of human history and to approach such ancient texts with sensitivity and a commitment to promoting justice and equality for all people. Theological and symbolic interpretations. Many religious scholars interpret this story in a theological and symbolic manner rather than as a literal account of racial origins. They see it as a lesson about respect for parents and the consequences of one's actions. The curse on Canaan is sometimes seen as a way of explaining the conflicts between different peoples and nations in the ancient world, rather than as a justification for slavery or discrimination. Ancient context. To understand this story better, it's essential to consider the historical context in which it was written. The book of Genesis is part of the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and it reflects the cultural and religious beliefs of the ancient Israelites. The story of Shem, Ham, and Japheth likely served a specific purpose within that context, which may not be immediately apparent to modern readers. Controversial interpretations. As mentioned earlier, some people have used this story to justify slavery and racism. The idea that Ham was cursed and that this curse was associated with African peoples was used to justify the enslavement of African descendant populations during the transatlantic slave trade. It's crucial to emphasize that these interpretations have been widely discredited and condemned by scholars and religious leaders. Promoting understanding and reconciliation. In contemporary times, many religious organizations and leaders promote interpretations of this story that emphasize reconciliation, forgiveness, and the rejection of discrimination. Instead of focusing on curses, they highlight the importance of unity among humanity and the need to treat all individuals with dignity and respect, regardless of their racial or ethnic background. Human diversity. From a scientific and anthropological perspective, the diversity of human populations cannot be explained by a simple narrative like the one in Genesis. Human genetic diversity is the result of complex evolutionary processes that occurred over millions of years. Therefore, it is essential to view such religious narratives as symbolic rather than literal explanations of human origins. In summary, the story of Shem, Ham, and Japheth should be approached with sensitivity and a recognition of its historical and cultural context. Interpretations should prioritize values of equality, justice, and respect for all individuals, and reject any attempts to use such stories to justify discrimination or harm. Many religious and scholarly perspectives encourage a more nuanced and compassionate understanding of this ancient narrative in today's world.